was linked to the harbour of Callao and onto La Punta by a 10-mile high-speed interurban. Latterly, base service was provided by 20 former 3rd Avenue lightweight cars acquired in 1947. Interestingly, these had started life as single-truck convertibles before being rebuilt and mounted on Brill's 77E bogies in 1934-5. For many years, the line had been closely paralleled by the first railway built in the Southern Hemisphere in 1851, which closed in the 1930s. The high-speed tramway was virtually dead straight and was the only line in Lima equipped for pantograph operation. In contrast, trolley poles were used on the 8-mile suburban line which linked Lima to the coastal town of Chorrillos. This was work by a mixed bag of double truckers, including some classic Brills and St. Louis cars. Achieving high speeds, motormen made liberal use of their air horn. However, the mainstay of the line were these Italian-built arched-window double trolley cars dating from the 1920s, when control of Lima's tramways had passed to an Italian company. Some hauled virtually identical trailers. The Chorrillos line, opened in 1904, had been the first electric railway in Peru, and interestingly, reflecting the level of traffic, there were a couple of other electric lines linking the same 2 points. Back now on the Callao interurban. Approaching Lima, ex-3rd Avenue 229 was inbound from Callao. Sharing work on the line were Brill master units dating from the 1930s. Note the former mounting for the trolley pole. Downtown Lima. In 1960, the city had a population of just under 1.5 million. A pair of braiders pulls away on the start of their 8-mile journey to Chorrillos. The 3 surviving city routes were all worked by Braider-built single truck cars dating from the 1920s, as was the city's 3rd suburban line, the 5-mile M to San Miguel. A trolley-equipped 3rd Avenue car followed a single trucker round a terminal loop. The narrow congested central area had several stretches of one-way working in parallel streets. Note the typical Spanish colonial architecture. Further scenes on the Chorrillos route. This trailer does not have the distinctive roof-mounted ventilators. Another delightful turn-of-the-century veteran, probably on the one-way terminal loop at Chorrillos. Clerestory roof double truckers. another of the handful of Brill master units. Reflecting South America's political turmoil, operations in the city came to an abrupt end on Friday, September the 17th, 1965. The following day, employees staged a strike for higher wages, and despite the fact that the army was specially trained to operate the trams, the system never reopened. "500 miles to the south of Lima was a small 3-foot 6-gauge electric system at Arequipa, which had opened in 1913. These views date from 1931, when the system was still under 20 years old. The clerestory roof brills dated from electrification. "502 was one of a pair of Brill 4-door Burnies delivered new in 1924. 301 was probably rebuilt from a short 26-foot-long center-entrance California-style double trucker. At this time, the cars offered both first and second-class accommodation. These extremely rare scenes were taken on the Tingo line, closed in 1947. By the 1960s, all services were through-routed across town. The city had a fascinating mixture of original and second-hand cars, most of which had been rebuilt. "502 heads out of town past the Bull Ring. "201 was a rebuild of an original 1913 clerestory car, but still on its Brill 21E truck. Arequipa numbered their fleet according to type, most classes only having a couple of cars. Relatively few Burnie safety cars were exported overseas. Arequipa had 2 and subsequently rebuilt other single truckers to resemble them. They also rebuilt their second-hand double truck acquisitions. For example, 701 was one of a pair purchased from Almara, New York. Owing to the number of tight curves in confined spaces, all double truckers were foreshortened, which made the 2X 3rd Avenue cars acquired in 1947 virtually unrecognizable. Another of the ex-Almara cars acquired in 1939. A former Memphis double trucker. A battered Burnie bravely battles along the worn rails on one of the 6 lines still operating in 1958. boarding was usually on the run. 602 was one of the city's Burney lookalikes, mounted on a Brill 79E truck. Another ex-3rd Avenue car in a poorer part of downtown. Double truck rebuild 301. In 1964, the system had a collection of 31 cars, of which over half were double truckers. Outer suburban views. Overlooked by the snow-capped volcano El Misti, an ex-Almira car rumbles slowly over the famous stone bridge en route to the slaughterhouse. The undertaking even possessed a motorized meat tram. Views on the highly scenic line to Paucapata, a must for all visiting American enthusiasts. "804 was one of 8 former Memphis trolleys mounted on Brill 39E reversed maximum traction bogies. It is believed the entire Arequipa system closed in July 1966.